Hi, Tim Sells here. In this video, I'm going to be introducing you to James Barbour. In the last video I did, I talked about actors and entertainers and the average incomes of them compared to YouTube, compared to network marketing, compared to real estate. In this discussion, I'm going to be talking to James, and we're going to walk through some various different concepts of dream, in other words, attain your dream versus having an income for life. All right, check it out. Okay, I'm super excited to have this interview because if you've ever heard James Barbour's voice, it's unforgettable. All right, so he and I have been friends for quite some time, and one Christmas I'll never forget it. He sent me an MP3 file, and I clicked on it, and I double clicked, and it opened up with just his voice. And he was singing, I believe it was "Oh Holy Night" or something. I don't know the name of the song. Is that what it was? Yeah. And so I remember listening to that probably 30 times in a row. It so like just penetrated. And so anyway, you got to hear his voice. You know, I'm sure he's probably got jamesbarbour.com or something like that. That you have music there and maybe YouTube or something. But I wanted to get him on because if there's anybody that I could ever imagine who had a dream and achieved the dream, okay? So if you can see in the background, he is the Phantom, okay? Or played the Phantom, right? And many, many others. And so in the theatrical music world, he's it, all right? And so I wanted to just interview him and have a discussion with him. James, thanks so much for being on the show here.
Oh man, it's my pleasure. You know, I've been following you and learning from you and listening from you for years, so it's my absolute.
That's all I needed to hear. I'm joking. We're done. Mic off. Okay, so I want to get a little bit personal with you, James, and you know, when I think about you and like, tell me when you first dreamed of being on a stage and being like, did you dream it real big or did you dream it small in the beginning? Tell us about that.
It's interesting. The dream actually came because I had so many varied interests when I was a kid. Like I wanted to be an archaeologist. I wanted to go to space. I wanted to be an oceanographer. I wanted to learn about all of these things. And I used to go and pretend to be them. And I couldn't choose, right? There's a phrase called a polymath, which is someone who's interested in all these different things. But I realized at one point that as an actor, I could actually become all of these things for a short amount of time, learn about them, actually be them, and then move on to become something else. And there was this sense of discovery and sense of freedom. And it was also when I got on stage for the first time in an empty theater, 1,000 seats, just empty. There was this sort of solitude. And I realized when I did my first show after that, that there was something to this. And the real reason and the core for me for really following the dream was because I realized that we have an opportunity to affect positive change in the world. So if one person could go away from a show or a concert or an event that I was doing and think about life in a different way or a more positive way, then I felt that I've actually achieved something. So when I combined all of those together, it fell into performance. That's how it happened.
Wow. And when you say what you did about, you know, like making the world better, and I know when I listened to that "Oh Holy Night," I felt a whole lot more spiritual. Okay, so you absolutely attained to that one in me. So now let's kind of get into like the work of it, the development of your skill, your voice. Like, what did that take for you?
Look, it's training. It's like anything else. I talk about it in relation to a professional athlete. You know, the amount of work that goes into sustaining it in theater specifically, it's 8 shows a week, 1 day off a week, 365 days a year. On Broadway, you have 1 week off every 6 months. it's exhausting. It is literally like playing an NFL game or a tennis match 8 times a week, every single day for years. And my Phantom run was almost 3 years. I did Beauty and the Beast on and off for 5 years. And so, obviously, as I started getting older, things changed. I had to take care of myself a little bit more, but I was at the gym every day. I don't drink, I don't smoke. Caffeine really destroys the voice. So I had to be worried about or concerned about what I was eating and drinking, because acting is different than just acting and singing. Because if I'm acting and singing, there's a different technique that goes on. So there's a lot of training. I spent years and years and years working and working and working. And, for a shot, one chance to make it,
Wow. I didn't know all of that. Like I thought you fell to the top. That's awesome.
Yeah, they
That's
call it the
awesome.
10-year overnight success.
10-year overnight success. So, all right. So you're going along and you're doing all of this training and rehearsing. I don't know. Do you build vocal power?
Yeah.
Is that it's a muscle?
It's like going to the gym. Yeah. It's going to the gym, or you watch, an NFL player train or an NBA player train, or, Serena Williams play tennis. They're training their muscles to fire, to do certain things automatically. So, and there's proper technique as well. Look, if I'm going to go and do leg squats and my knees are not properly positioned over my feet, I could blow my knee out. So you have to also be mindful of your vocal cords. It's when you listen to the great actors like Patrick Stewart speak, there is a way that they speak that over time you're not doing damage. So you're building your muscle so that even on an off day, you're able to execute at a high level, even though you might not be firing on all burners.
Wow. That was a lot I didn't know. Like it's a whole area where, like my son's riding his ATV and he gets past the gate and he starts heading towards the road. And I scream trying to get him to, for my volume to go over the sound of the ATV that he's sitting on with a helmet on, right? And I scream. And that's the only thing I can connect to what you just said is I probably blew everything out.
Yeah, but there's a way to do it where you won't. It's like those drill sergeants. When I watch those drill sergeants scream, they don't have any voice left.
I bet. Yeah. Okay, so when did you say, I reached it? Gosh, I reached it. I'm here. Was it when you got the job? Was it one day on a stage? Was it during makeup? What happened?
It's funny. It changes, right? So you set these goals and it's like, I made it. Now what? Then there's the next one. The first time it happened was the national tour of a Broadway show. I was like, I made it. I was making $1,425 a week on a big Broadway show touring around the country. And then I got my first Broadway show. And this is really what changed my viewpoint. I was standing on stage at the Neil Simon Theater in Manhattan. And there was a lot of technical issues. This was a big multi-million-dollar show. And we had partial costumes on. The side doors to the theater were open. And on Broadway, they open up onto the street. And people were walking by, just pedestrians. And here we are standing in this theater, and these people peered their heads in. Just people walking by, and they could see this Broadway show being built for the first time, and their eyes opened up. They're like, they saw the magic, like behind the scenes. And at that moment, I realized I was doing what thousands of people only dream of doing. And it was a really special moment. But everything grows. You hit a level, and then you want to keep going and keep going and keep going. Certainly playing the Phantom was iconic because everybody knows that role. But there's always something you want to create more, I think.
Beautiful. All right. So, and I'm much the same way. I saw a picture in a science book when I was in high school, and it was a person welding underwater. Now, I was a welder with my dad, and so I knew a little bit about welding, and I And I was scratching my head saying, how in the world is that guy not getting shocked? Because if you kneel in water and weld, it's a bad thing. You're going to get shocked, right? So I was really curious about it, and I wanted to do it. And that's the reason that I headed off in that direction. And the Navy was the only way that I could actually pay for that training. And there was a day when I had sunk down to the ocean floor. I had my welding rod, I had put it in there. I had set the ground, and I was getting ready to weld, and I hit the dark lens, and it went down. And so when it sparked, I go, I'm the guy in the picture. It was like, I'm the guy in the picture. Wow. And then the rod stuck and I couldn't get it undone, but it the face of reality, and so I know that feeling. And then it was, what's next? Well, wow. Could I defuse bombs underwater? Well, now that would be difficult. Let me try that, right? So, and it grew and grew, and it would be really cool to skydive into where the bomb is and then defuse it. Man, that's James Bond stuff, And so anyway, I know exactly what you mean by it's there for a moment and then you advance. So that's great. How did you get gigs? Okay, so how did you pay for the process of, you know what I mean when I talk about pipeline, obviously, right? Yeah. Okay, so what did you do to get gigs? In other words, how do you part-time be a worker and part-time be trying to be an actor or entertainer?
Yeah, man, it is that is in my industry it is the ultimate question that everybody asks. How do you get there? How do you get an agent? How do you get a job? How do you get this? How do you get that? And the answer is any way you can. When I first started out, I was very fortunate. I only had two non-performance jobs in my career. One was working in an indoor batting cage, and one was selling tickets to shows, which I was dreadful at. I met great friends, but I don't think I sold a single ticket in 6 months. So, yeah, it's horrible. In terms of being an actor, I had to create. Basically, it's creating notability. People have to know who you are, and the only way for people to know who you are is if you get them to know who you are. So how do you do that? Well, I would go to what are called open calls. They would put listings up and say, we're auditioning for this show and this show and this show and this show and this show. I would stand in line. I'd tell this story. I woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, that's exactly it. I will tell you, I want to just share one thing with you before I finish the story. What you do and how you, I'm looking at that studio, and it's like I'm watching one of the top studios on the planet. And it's really amazing to see how you put all of this together. It constantly energizes me to be better at doing these kinds of things. It's so professional, bro.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. What I want my listeners, subscribers, to really get something that he's describing here. He has to make himself known. He's presenting. He needs to get in front of audiences. All right. So he's trying to figure out who has a stage that he can go stand on. Right? That's what I hear. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Or who has the thing that can allow me the opportunity to get to the next thing. And Good. There are multiple aspects. There's agents. They don't have stages, but in order to get in front of an agent, they have to see you. They have to know that you have some skill set so that then they can send you out to the people that will book you on stages. And then you're in line with 150 other people that look exactly like you for one job. And even if you don't get that job, now you have to follow up with the person that you auditioned for. So I would send postcards. I would, email didn't exist when I was starting out that much, but it was mostly postcards and phone calls and creating anything I could just to keep consistent, to keep relevant, if that makes sense. So you're not out of sight, out of mind. You have to stay relevant or you will be passed by very, very quickly. So it was just a constant create.
Yeah, I was retired for 18 years and I wasn't relevant, right? I start doing these conversations where I'm sharing with people the truth about network marketing, breaking down what the antis are saying and what the media is saying and things like that. And I become relevant again, right? It's not any different. It's like for my world, from what I'm listening from your side. So, so you were basically paying your bills. How?
Well, it barely. So,
My friend Amex, my friend Visa, my friend.
yeah, exactly. My friend Amex or Visa calling you saying there's no more availability. Look, when you're starting out, um, I was taking jobs that were $250 a week. And here's the crazy thing, Tim. Those jobs are still there and the pay is about the same. And I started this in 89, right? I graduated college in 88. So I was $250 a week, $300 a week, oh, but we're going to pay for your housing, and I'm traveling all over the country to try to do these gigs. So it was keeping expenses as lean as possible, but always trying to get the next gig. And the catch 22 is that in order to get the good gigs, like the Broadway gigs or the television and film gigs, you either had to be in New York or in Los Angeles. So the issue that I have in my industry is that in order to go for the good gigs, which are the Broadway shows or the television and film gigs, you really need to be in New York City at the time or Los Angeles. So leaving the city to go and do a gig, which is where most of the outside gigs come from and the money comes from, it created a liability because we weren't in New York for the good gigs. But I had to leave because I had to make money in my industry. It was this weird catch-22. So I tried my best to make as much money as I can to build a resume, sustain, until eventually I got a bigger gig. But then when that was done, there's no gig. So it was a constant repeat, wash and repeat.
Wow. So you lived in New York and you also lived in Los Angeles. That was where you basically had to be.
Yeah, well, I started in New York, and it wasn't until I hit success, because my goal was, let me get some sense of success and then leverage that to another success. So I was in New York until, I got in New York in 89. I finally got my first national tour in 1992. That led to an off-Broadway show, which led to a Broadway show. That Broadway show led me to go to Los Angeles with an actual Broadway show. And then I came back. So it wasn't until 6 years into my career that I actually was able to make the transition over there.
Good stuff, man. I like for people to hear that it's work. I really, really love it because people always just take this, yeah, but you're the chosen one. You're not average. You're not this. You're not that. And my thought is always, all right, Tim, hold it together. Don't roundhouse kick them in the forehead. They don't understand. It's okay. Because if anybody knew a clue about how hard I worked, how many hours I talked to a stuffed animal to get out of shyness, how many, nobody would ever believe it. And they don't believe it. They think I just landed. So I love people hearing that. Okay, so let me talk to you a little bit about the media in general. So what I see in the media from my perspective is that somebody, let's say they're a writer for the Washington Post, and they are coming at your story, your performance as a critic. They will give you a good and they'll give you a bad. It's kind of like a review on Amazon. And and so I don't know how much it sways the performance or the ticket sales for that event. Like, what happens in that?
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. I wrote this book called The Artist Survival Guide, and I tell this story about a critic who later became a very good friend. And I asked him, I said, why is it that when you review something, you don't say, in my opinion, this show or film is something. You say, this show is something. I said, wouldn't it be better to state your opinion and then let the audience decide on their own? And he literally said to me, James, we can't do that because the audience is not smart enough to make up their own minds. That was his quote to me. And I befouled, and he goes, it's true. Now, I don't happen to believe that. But look, marketing and press, if you buy into them, they have worth. You use the quotes from the tabloids or the newspapers to sell tickets. This show is the greatest show since man. You know, there's a great story about a Broadway producer years ago who quoted very famous critics. The show is the best. Bob Smith, you know, I'm making up the names. Best show on Broadway, Susan Jones. And those critics came up and they said to him, I didn't say that. He goes, I didn't say you said it. It doesn't say New York Times under it. He actually went out and found people with the same names, brought them to the show, asked them what their opinions were. And they're like, I loved it. And he put the review up with their name, but he didn't put, you know, the periodical that they were from. So it's all perception. And I think a lot of it is, it's arbitrary to me. I don't read them. I don't pay attention to them because half the audience, Phantom of the Opera, when it came out, got horrible reviews. It is the longest running show on Broadway. It has made more money, I believe, at the time than the Star Wars franchise. So, you know, they're going to be what they're going to be. I don't really pay attention to them very much.
Because what I see is like there is a life in media, and it's short life, right? Like, so you know, and it's very unpredictable, that sort of a thing. And now, you know, with all of the COVID stuff, I see just kind of like how I see the truth of who they are. You know what I mean? I see, wow, they are an advertising agency. And that's all they are. And like, I can't even believe it. You know, I used to be where I would watch CNN, but I would see it like 4 days later because I would be in the bombing area and they would say something and they would shoot a video of something and they would say something happened. And I was like, you know, we would all be sitting in the lunchroom. We'd like look at each other and we're like, what'd they say? Like, they were showing a video of a building that we were at, and what they said was an utter lie, right? But how would anybody else know that? Because there's only like 6 of us there. So, yeah. So anyway, that's just from the media standpoint, they just generate junk. Okay.
And again, I have friends who are critics and things like that. For me, it's a way to sell newspapers. It's a way to get attention.
Get
and
eyeballs.
Very quickly, they'll be on to something else. They just have to. It has to constantly create interest for them. So,
okay. So this, let me back up one here. I want to. So in my last video, I revealed these numbers. YouTube average statistics: out of 710,000 people, 366 people will make $57,000. As actors, entertainers, it's 2,786 will make $50,000. And in network marketing, $53,000. And then on the 6-figure income, you have 183 in YouTube, 1,000 in actors, and 14,000. When you and I had a discussion back, we were at ClickFunnels. That was when they launched that Underground Railroad organization, and he was a performer at it, and so he and I ended up grabbing a seat out in the hallway or something like that, and the conversation just led itself over to me sharing with him about his future, right? Like, you know, like you can do this for a period of time. Bills last your lifetime. And a lot of times the stardom comes up and it comes down. And it's far better to build a team of people so that your income outlasts your body, right? So I had this kind of conversation, and I talked to him about building a sales team. And so tell me what you think, like what are you doing now, kind of a thing, and why do you like network marketing?
Well, I've always liked network marketing. And, I kind of turn off the noise a lot. And, I'm still producing. Look, right now, COVID specifically hit. Broadway is shut down. I mean, it's not speculated to be back up until sometime next year. Millions upon millions of dollars are being lost. Every actor that I know is completely out of work. There is some television and film work coming back up. But I will tell you one thing. There was a woman who was in Phantom of the Opera with me who was in the show for, I think, 7 or 8 years. And she was part of a network marketing company. And we would talk about it because so am I. And we would just talk about it on the side. Here's the irony, if there is an irony, silver lining. When COVID hit, she's fine. She's expanded because she had the residual income coming in while she was still doing Phantom. She was doing 2 businesses at one time. So I'm producing movies, I'm creating courses. I wrote this book called The Art of Survival Guide, which talks about residual income. Because unless you're doing a television show or a film and are a major actor in those, that's the only time you're going to get residual. If you're a guest star, you make a couple, a grand, but then your residuals are like $25 every time it shows. So for me, the whole purpose of writing that book was to say you need to create residual income. And it was actually built before COVID hit because, as I told you, even after that big Broadway show, that national tour, I was out of work and I had to scramble to get the next one. I could live on my savings, but I was living on my savings and I didn't know how long that was going to last. So the book is literally, you need to create as artists residual income, which you can still do. Here's the brilliance of it. Sorry, I'm getting excited about it. Is that my friend Michelle and myself, I mean, Phantom was a big gig for me, but even when you're doing a Broadway show, even when you're singing and doing concerts, even when you're doing a television show or a film, you're only working a part of the day. Our entire days were open. So she was doing her team meetings and building her team all during the day while she was doing her gig at night. They're synonymous. They can work together. And, for me, and again, I go to work at Phantom. It's me 8 times a week. As soon as that show is done, like when Phantom finished, for me, I did it for 3 years, income stops from that gig. Yet with a team in network marketing, even though I may be on vacation, I've built a team and they're creating the residual income. So to me, it's a no-brainer. That's why I like it. Does that answer your question?
Better than I could have. Okay, so let me explain why. I'm going to go back here to a comparison to real estate. To real estate, 1,250 people make $100,000 compared to 14,000 people in network marketing. Why? Okay, and I showed you already the numbers with the YouTubers and actors. If you're in the acting industry, if you're in the music industry, if you're in film, if you're in these things, just think about your marketability when you're in your 20s is hot. 30s, hot. You got some traction, right? And there is a finite, okay? I hate to tell you this. There's a finite. Same with athletes. Same with Navy Spec Ops. That's the reason they put us in the Pentagon, okay? It's because we outlived our ability to, leap across ships and stuff, okay? So this right here is the reason why network marketing makes a lot of people who make $100,000 is because in real estate, you are the only person who is generating leads, contacting, setting appointments, showing the house, following up, and when they buy, you serve them and you make money. All right, politicians have to do this. Every college has to generate leads in order to have students come. Like every church, to get a congregation, they've got to generate leads, contact them, set an appointment for them to come on Sunday or whatever it is, right? In other words, everybody has to do this. This is the foundation. And if you're going to go out there and drive Uber, you can generate leads, you can contact, you can do all of those things, but it's done. There is no investment. But if you just think about, you know what, I want to find a product, a quality product that I believe in, okay? And then you build a team. You get customers, you build a team, and now instead of one person doing the pipeline, that's what real estate is. At the end of the year, if you made $100,000, then you probably sold about 20 homes. You'd probably need to move about 200 people across the pipeline. But it's only you moving people across the pipeline to make those sales. In network marketing, the advantage, the great advantage is if it's only if it's something you believe in. Now you train a team how to do the pipeline. They get a team and they train how to do the pipeline. That is the reason that I can have in just 7 years, 57 millionaires, 5,401 who have made $250,000 a year. It's how I could be retired for 18 years. All right. So as you're doing your performances, as you're trying to get up, don't just do a side gig. Do an investment so that your income outlasts your body. That's the simple concept that he and I talked about at a ClickFunnels event. And, and I think it was kind of like the start of where he started really beginning to see, like what the value was. You know, it's not what people in the media say network marketing is. In my own life, I know what it is. In your own life, you know what it is. All right. I know you've had like this stable volume in your organization for a very, very long time, right? Like as long as you've been on Phantom, at least.
Before that. And
yeah,
the thing that really hit it for me, Tim, when we were sitting there and talking was the fact that, I had this dream and I reached this dream, but eventually, like you said, there will come a point where, I'm not going to be able to do physically the things that I was able to do. And if you look at, and you nailed it, when you look at, the longevity of a career in my area, the entertainment world, it starts to dwindle. My whole thing was, I looked at it and I said, if I can create this foundation of residual income, then guess what? I can go and create anything I want, despite critics, despite producers, despite somebody maybe not wanting to hire me, because that income was there. It allowed me to pay my bills, feed my family, take care of my kids, whether I had a gig that I was hired to do or not. And more so, it allowed me the freedom to go and create whatever. I could create my own concerts. I could create my own shows because I was not relying on someone else to hire me for my product. And that was where it was like control goes back into my hands. And that to me is freedom. And it's possible. I see people do it all the time from all walks of life. And it's inspiring to me when people have success. So thank you for, getting the cobwebs out of the rafters. And here's the other thing. I stopped listening. Like I don't pay attention. I go in and I look for myself, right? I turn off the noise. I turn off, like, I'll read something. I'm like, okay. And I'll go find out for myself. And when you find out for yourself, there's a lot of truth to what the reality is versus what the perception is. And, you helped me with that as well. So I thank you.
Hey, you bet. I couldn't believe. I just maybe about 2 weeks ago recorded something called Earn Freedom. And I can't believe how many times you just said freedom. I'm like, yes, that's really what it's called. Earn freedom. It's not get freedom. It's earn freedom. And I believe that you said it so many times there. James, I can't.
I'll just add this. So many people in my industry, I see posts all the time. We need to extend the benefits. I can't pay. We need to extend the benefits. I need more money. I need more money. And I sit there and I hurt because so many people are out of work. But there's an opportunity here to actually create something. And when I look at the people that have actually created, like my friend Michelle, who I told you about, and myself, who have created these foundations, you're able, and I'm able now to go out and help those who are hurting and enlighten them, and say, here's a hand up. Let's learn something together. Let's grow. You can build and grow despite what the situation is. And more so right now, because that freedom has allowed those people to sustain through this situation. So wanted to end with that with you.
Yeah. It actually gave me another question that I want to ask you. Okay. So let's say that a person views themselves from an identity standpoint. Okay. So an identity is that when they look at a mirror, they're projecting who they think they are, right? And let's say that they read a negative article and now they look and let's say that they read a negative article on network marketing. And so then they have this image that's in that mirror and they're like, I'm not that. I'm not a salesperson. I'm not a spammer or whatever it is that person has a vision of, right? Like I get spammed by people in network marketing, but I get spammed by everybody, right? Stock traders are spamming me. Like I can't even believe all that are, right? So that's just an unprofessional person is all that is. And so when you look and you say, I think I heard it in some of your answers where you're like, I don't care what they say. You have a connection to me. You see how I do it professionally, and I have massive teams. And so I think that if more people realized how many professional people are actually doing it, they would say, oh, there's bad network marketing. There's good network marketing. Okay, I get it. What do you think?
I think it's perception versus reality. And I'll share this with you. I would talk about business. I would talk about building brands. I would talk about building teams to people while I was doing Phantom. And I would, like actors, and I'd get these sideways looks like, well, I'll tell you what, you know how many phone calls I'm getting?
Yeah.
Tons of phone calls. Hey, can you tell me about that thing you were talking about? Because the perception versus reality is stark. And for me, again, it is, and it is that guilt by association. Well, I'm an actor, so am I a network marketer? Well, are you a human being? Are you a parent? Are you a boyfriend, girlfriend, sister, brother, child, of somebody? And it really is like, I don't care, right? Like my whole thing is I want to flourish. I want to grow. I want to prosper. And I want to help people around me prosper in a good way. And so I turn off, or I take a look at what the perception is, but then I really look at the reality. I was doing a video the other day for my Facebook page, and it was bright light. And I was like, wow, it looks like I'm right in the middle of the sun. I wasn't. I was standing on a tennis court. Right behind me, it was pitch black. But had I not said that I was on a tennis court, everybody would have thought that I was in the middle of the day. So it's perception versus reality. And I think if you actually look at the truth of what this industry is, you will find a far different picture than what some people are painting it as, because it's a massively successful business with, amazing people. Not only that, you get to be around some amazing people who are go-getters, who are entrepreneurs, who are supporting each other, all for the betterment of the team and the group. And I think it's great. That's my answer to you, if that makes sense.
All right. Can't thank you enough, James. Greatly appreciate your input onto this. I remember I had called him having to do with those numbers of actors and entertainers, and some of his numbers assisted greatly in understanding in the different industries that they're very similar. Doesn't matter if you're in music or you're in theater or whatever. And so I want to thank you for assisting in that. And then, and in conclusion, what's my primary message here? It is, there is a dream. You got a dream. Good, do the dream. Okay? Mine was welding underwater, and then it was defusing bombs, and then it was skydiving and defusing bombs, and blah, blah, blah. And I kept on extending it. And at some point I said, you know what? Gosh, I see these people who have retired doing what I'm doing right now. And, you know, their fenders are bent. Their bumpers are dragging on the ground. They live in, you know, like it's like not good lives. Okay, so I look at what's going on. I see a lot of alcoholism. I see a lot of things that I didn't picture that part. And so I wanted to build something that could create residual income that would last longer than my body. Okay, so there's dream and there's money. That the money thing that you have to live. That's the reality. And so I appreciate you watching. Please comment down below. Give James some love for coming on the show. I appreciate you. You might think of subscribing if you haven't already. Thank you.